Okay, in this video we're going to talk about finding compositions of functions, and we're going to do some very basic problems just to kind of give you an overview of what it means. And let's get started. So we have to start with a function, so we're going to start with f of x is 5 minus 4x. And once we have the definition of the function, we can start using it. So for example, we might do something like find f of 2. And what that means is we're going to take every x that we see in f of x and replace it with 2, and then simplify if we can. So it'll be 5 minus 4 times 2. And then that is just 5 minus 8, which is negative 3. We could do that with any number. So we could find f of negative 3. That'll be 5 minus 4 times the quantity negative 3. And then we simplify that. That's 5 plus 12, so 17. And we can actually replace x with anything we want. So sometimes, especially on standardized tests, you'll see weird things like f of a triangle. And f of a triangle is going to be 5 minus 4 times whatever the triangle is. So that idea actually is kind of useful because sometimes we define another function. So let's say g of x is 5x. And you might be asked to find f of g of x. The process is exactly the same, so it's going to be 5 and then minus 4 times the quantity g of x. But then the whole idea is that g of x is really just 5x. It's another name for 5x. And so that would be 5 minus 4 times 5x, and that would simplify down to 5 minus 20x. Okay, so that's actually a composition of functions. We took one function and plugged it into another function. That's essentially all you're doing. Let's take a look at another one. So h of x could be 8x plus 3. So f of x, h of x, and g of x are all linear functions. And you might notice so far we get linear functions when we do compositions of linear functions. That turns out to be a thing that always happens. So we could do f of h of x. So what that means is we're going to do 5 minus 4 times the quantity h of x, whatever h of x is. And now we go and we substitute what h of x is. It's 8x plus 3. And distribute, so I have to multiply negative 4 times 8x to get negative 32x, negative 4 times 3 to get negative 12, and then I'm going to collect like terms here. So I get negative 32x and then minus 7. We also could do h of f of x, right? There's no reason we're just doing f of h of x other than it's the problem I told you to do. So this will be 8 times whatever f of x is, and then plus 3. And so f of x we know is 5x minus 4, and then plus 3. Distributive property again, so it's going to be 40 and then minus 32x, and then that plus 3 just hangs out. Simplify that. So h of f of x is negative 32x plus 43. So one thing you might notice is f of h of x and h of f of x are not the same thing. They don't give you the same value. It's the same idea, same process, but they don't always give you the same value. Sometimes they do, and then there's a special relationship, but that's not the point of this video. Let's look at one kind of interesting question that I've seen on practice SAT things. So here it is. So if f of x is 5x minus 7 and f of g of x is 3x plus 8, this question is asking us what is g of x. So it turns out we can answer this by doing exactly what we've been doing. So first I'm going to find f of g of x. So that's going to be 5 times whatever g of x is, and then minus 7. I don't really like those parentheses, so I'm going to actually rewrite that. So f of g of x, I'm just going to write 5g of x, and then minus 7. And then I'm told in the problem that f of g of x should be equal to 3x plus 8. So now I actually have an equation. 5g of x minus 7 should be equal to 3x plus 8 because they're both equal to f of g of x. And I'm going to solve. So solve for g of x. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides to get this. I'm going to divide both sides by 5 to get this. And then that right-hand side, I'm going to simplify so it looks a little more like a line. So g of x is 3/5 x, and then plus 3. And we solve for g of x. All right, so those are some pretty basic examples of compositions. as long as you don't overthink it, they're pretty simple, to be honest. I hope you found this helpful, and good luck.